Have you ever loved a video game so much you could just live and breathe it forever? Have you ever encountered a series that climbed under your skin and became part of you? Have you ever been beyond excited to play the latest installment and then you played it and felt nothing? So I've been playing Elden Ring, and one of the things I respect the hell out of it for is how open to choice it is. You can go anywhere at any time, play any build with any gear, and one of the things the community rightfully celebrates this game for is the fact that everyone's journey is valid. There's no wrong way to play Elden Ring, and no wrong experience to have in the lands between. I wonder how they'll react when I say that my experience was that I was bored. I was bored, even though Elden Ring is the most graphically stunning and awe-strikingly spectacular world From Software has ever brought to life, and certainly as perilous and gorgeous and grotesque as any of their previous games. But there was something lacking. A strangeness and alienation that made the early Souls games such forbidding and compelling places. I played the entirety of Demon's Souls using the same sword because I couldn't figure out how to upgrade the different weapons. I had Elden Ring down in the first hour. Runes are souls, sights of grace are bonfires, the flask of crimson tears is an Estus flask, incantations are miracles, vigor is vitality, fingers are soapstones. When did From Software's games become so describable? Drop a message, drop a bloodstain, drop a summon sign. Next thing, a mysterious maiden will appear to help me level up. Yep. The early Souls games were cagey, mysterious, loath to give away their secrets. Elden Ring has fast travel and a horse you can summon in an instant and a map that shows your exact location at all times. And it made me want to feel how I felt when I played Demon's Souls for that very first time with my stupid scimitar, exploring those daunting landscapes and intimidating mechanics. It made me yearn to be confused and dwarfed and scared and homesick and desperate. Instead, I ride under red skies and am beset by unspeakable horrors, and I yawn. This isn't what I wanted. I never planned to feel this hollow. Light. A thing of hope and guidance. Restorative, protective. Light heals and illuminates and leads the way forward. Unless it doesn't. Unless light becomes as oppressive as any dungeon or cave, the sheer blinding expanse of white on every side, both drawing you in and threatening to swallow you up. An unnatural brightness that doesn't guide but obscures the way forward, obscures the fact that there even is a way forward. Starseed Pilgrim is weird. It's weird in ways that the word weird doesn't seem to cover. I don't think I've ever played a game whose rules have been so important and so completely obscured. The weirdness starts straight away in the opening screen. A blackness eating away at the edges, some simple instructions, partially obscured words. This is preparing you for what's to come in ways you won't understand yet. But although Starseed Pilgrim tells you how to play, it doesn't tell you how to play. When you enter a level from the hub world, one lone commandment hovers above you. Touch space to grow. And then it begins. Hitting the spacebar does indeed plant a seed, but the seeds grow in all kinds of wacky ways, and you can't control what colour seed you have to plant next. And there's a darkness that you're constantly out racing, and if you fall into it, it becomes a dark realm, and there's an exit in the dark realm, but you need to find the key to open it, and also you need to leave a path back from the key and don't fall off the screen on your way back. Plant, grow, fall. Plant, grow, get trapped. Plant, get swallowed by the blackness. Grow, what the fuck? Plant, fall into the void. Hey, I made a bunny. Plant, grow, get the key, fall off the edge of the world. It's so alien, this world that reverses itself when you touch that strange blackness, where the path forward is tumultuous and unpredictable, where planning ahead is inevitable and impossible, where in an instant the platforms you create turn into white shining voids that either permit or stymie your way back out. Soon enough, you'll notice that every seed has a certain set of behaviours it can do, and you will learn them. You'll adapt to this world. There's no other way. You'll learn to speak its language, or you'll never leave. Slowly you learn. Slowly you improve by blundering and falling and failing and cursing and repeating, the sound of failure ringing in your ears, until you start to see the patterns, the possibilities, the paths that can open and the doors that can slam shut if you don't think far enough ahead. Eventually, like a celestial garden, a kind of understanding blooms. At last, I succeed in my first thrilling voyage through this little world. I grow a path to a star that becomes a key. I bring that key back and I unlock the door and... Oh, this is just the beginning. I'm at the beginning. This is where I was before. I don't understand. I go back into the level thinking something might have changed there. It hadn't. I play another round, then 2, then 3, until on my 6th journey through the dark world and back, I re-emerge at the beginning and I decide to try hitting space. And finally, after an hour and 6 minutes, the game began. Starseed Pilgrim's biggest trick is that the white void in which you start the game is in fact not a void. There's no way to find this out, except for making a leap of faith into the great, dazzling expanse. There are undoubtedly people who got this far and then quit the game before ever finding out there's a whole world out there waiting for you in the white. Its first big trick is in trusting you, the player, to come up with the idea that there might be something more in this seemingly empty world, to reach out, blind and hopeful into the nothingness with the faith of a pilgrim. Hey, what if An idea like a seed from the universe. And then I realize the game was pointing to this all along. The partially obscured words in the tutorial, already inviting the player to explore and reveal, planting the idea that there's more to find in this world if you're willing to look. The white spaces of the dark world that eat you even though you know there's ground just underneath them. Why did I die? I know there's something there just off screen. I know it's there, I just can't see it. Then you understand that Starseed Pilgrim is about obscuration, of paths hiding in plain sight, entire new lands just beyond what can be seen, requiring only that you reach out for them, that you believe they're there. Touch space to grow. This is the goal of the game. To collect seeds from levels and then use them to grow through the empty white space of the hub world. New islands lead to new levels, lead to new abilities and challenges. AAA games promise a unique journey, the chance to forge your own path, and yet nowhere is this promise more fully realized than in Starseed Pilgrim. A game where you literally make your own way, pushing into the abyss with hope in your eyes and a handful of cosmic seeds in your hand. The pure bliss of creating something from nothing, of building a traversable Technicolor world that you can say with confidence is completely different from every other one that has ever been built. But although you'll get better, grow quicker, progress faster, fall less, you're never anything more than a visitor in Starseed Pilgrim's endless garden. Although you can calculate and adapt, you're only ever barely controlling the chaos. The white non-spaces of this realm feel frighteningly infinite, organic in a disturbing way, like something that sprouted from some alternate universe but then glitched out, evolved in a bizarre direction. All of it framed by an ethereal, ominous hum that isn't so much a soundtrack as what the place between a dream and a nightmare sounds like. What is Starseed Pilgrim? What the hell is all this about? What's the point of it? The answer is, I don't know, but it makes my heart throb all the same. There's something trying to swallow me, and I can't outrun it forever, but I'm going to try, and my fragile little body is soaring. I build blocks to escape the ever-creeping darkness. I reach across an endless chasm to connect one lonely pilgrim to another. The invasion of entropy, the end of everything, a wild and brief dash for the stars. I run from the black, run from the ever-encroaching. There's nothing like playing a game by Icepick Lodge. They have a knack for designing games that are parasitic, even sadistic, and that thoroughly decentralize the player. Their cult hit Pathologic is a game that reduces you to a starving, diseased wretch of a village doctor, trying and failing to stop a plague from sweeping through your hometown while order collapses around you. Their follow-up, The Void, is even more ruthless in what it rips away from you. Not just your lifeblood, which is constantly leaching away with every passing moment, but a more fundamental sense of trust between player and game. If Pathologic challenged the idea that games had to be fun, The Void challenges the very idea of games as things you can rely on to help you progress through them. The Void is weird. It's weird in ways the word weird doesn't seem to cover. I don't think I've ever played a game whose rules have been so important and so completely obscured. The weirdness starts straight away in the opening screen, an obscure set of symbols that look more like a bunch of ritualistic markings than a video game menu. This is preparing you for what's to come in ways you won't understand yet. But although The Void tells you how to play, it doesn't tell you how to play. Yes, you'll be shown how to move through this dreary world and pick up bits of colour and put them inside you so you don't die, and also use that colour to kill monsters and grow trees and feed the childlike women who call themselves sisters. But you've got a nasty surprise in store if you think what The Void tells you is what you need to know. Like another game I know of, The Void finds its identity in subtraction and abstraction. The chambers of the Void are dull and grey, misshapen and largely empty. This, like the White Void, is a fragile world under siege from the relentless forces of entropy, teetering on the precipice of non-existence. But there's more than meets the eye in this place too, if you're willing to look hard enough, to mould yourself to its rhythms and bizarre dialects, and above all, to give yourself over to the transformative power of colour. You plant trees here too, They sprout in otherworldly shades of gold and crimson and amber, and if you're lucky, your harvest will be bountiful. More often though, the fates are cruel, and what you are given is not what you needed, and you're so freaking starving. The cosmic consciousness has its own whims that you are not privy to. And although you plant and harvest what you can't propagate what there is nothing of. Here, deep in the nowhere, time is counted in cycles, and they are always ticking away. The darkness encroaches, and this world is not a generous one, not in resources, nor in information. The Void's biggest trick is that it lies. Plenty of games hide things from the player only to make the reveal all the more sweet, but this isn't that. There's no dramatic reveal, only treachery. The Void just quietly lies to you, and then you simply die, confused and betrayed. Your journal, which logs your progress and goals, is phrased in unclear and even misleading ways, which can easily steer you into a fail state. The first character you meet may, at one point early on, tell you not to give her any more colour. If you listen to her, you'll fail the game, because giving her colour is the only thing that will open up the path to the next area. But rather than feeling like cheap tricks, these misdirections feel like natural consequences of a world that is unknowable, even by the flawed beings that live within it, all of whom are working on incomplete information. Characters throw around terms, the nightmare, the sleeper, the devastator, that it's not clear they even understand, and people contradict each other to boot. No one knows what the hell is going on here, least of all you. The Void may be the only game I've ever played that feels like a mystery to itself. Starseed Pilgrim may hide more than most games, but it does ultimately lay its mechanics bare, if not its deeper meanings. It only gets really punishingly difficult in the end game, but the Void locks you out in the cold from minute 1 and keeps you there. Here, you won't be reaching for the stars, you'll be grasping for anything to help you find your way in the dark, and you'll find nothing, except probably, eventually, an online walkthrough. This is a game in which, despite your best efforts, you will likely fail multiple times before you succeed, if you ever succeed. Fail states only activate at certain predetermined points, so you might be failing for half an hour before you're told you did something wrong. Not what you did wrong, mind you, just that at some point you did bad. You'll reload again and again and again as you desperately try different things to get out of a failure state you got stuck in ages ago and can't even figure out the cause of. This is the kind of soul-crushing bullshit that will make you go begging on your knees for those AAA games to take you back. I logged 3 failed playthroughs of The Void before I beat it on my 4th try. Then again, I came back for a 4th try. Because the more this game withholds, the more I want to break it open. And even after I endured the pain and wonder and drudgery to reach the end, admittedly with the use of a few difficulty tweaks, its grotesque characters and bizarre symbology and ugly beauty float in my head, unresolved. What is the Void? What the hell is all this about? What's the point of it? The answer is, I don't know, but it's engrossing to try and understand it all the same. For all their obtuseness, I can manufacture plausible theories about how Kentucky Route Zero is about the despair of corporate exploitation, and Dear Esther is about the journey through grief to self-forgiveness, and Inside is about the inability to escape systems of oppression and control. But the Void does not open for me. All attempts at a coherent interpretation fail in one way or another, are forced to yield to its enduring strangeness and total commitment to abstraction. An abstraction that, to be clear, feels like a bold creative decision rather than a retreat. It may not have an explicit message or even an intended experience beyond confusion and questioning, but this is a fascinating and singular world, created with no small amount of bravery or artistic flair. It has an identity, a will, a life of its own that I can feel pulsing quietly through the screen. It demands to be engaged with, even as it rejects every attempt to touch it. So what can be said about it in the end? For what it's worth, I believe that the void is a void. It's a world that's about as alien as you can get, where the more you reach for a framework or an explanation, the less you'll come away with. The void is about the search for meaning because every moment of playing it is a search for meaning. It is one long, difficult journey through the dark, with almost no hope and very little guidance. Reminds me of some other worlds I used to know. Okay, let me tell you about this pretty cool game. You're dead, and your soul has been sucked into this monochromatic purgatory, where existence is bleak and survival is fragile. There's a hub from which you travel to different locations and collect a precious substance that is the life essence and currency of this world, which you'll need to both consume and give to others. One way in which you'll do this is to ritualistically touch the soul of a beautiful and mysterious woman. Am I talking about demon souls or the void? Yes. Those games released within a year of each other, and Starseed Pilgrim came out the same year Dark Souls did. But despite their brilliant iconoclasm, the Void and Starseed Pilgrim have received far less praise and acceptance, which is why I only discovered them recently, at a time when a series I once loved for its mystery brought me only familiarity. But the closer I looked, the more I found that their similarities to the Souls series go way deeper than I initially realized. Take the themes of light versus darkness and hope versus despair, the quasi-religious elements that can be found not only in the language and imagery of all these games, but in the pilgrimage they ask the player to take, the challenge to put one's faith in the journey regardless of how difficult it gets. Take their tendency to provoke questions rather than provide answers, the brutality of leaving the player to find their own way and their own interpretation of the journey. They all require grit and fierce engagement and mastery to complete, and yet beating them isn't about domination so much as adaptation and survival. Elden Ring isn't a bad game. It's a technically excellent and marvelously executed game that you can spend a lot of hours with, if that's what you want. But playing it just reminded me of how much I miss that Souls magic, the magic that Starseed Pilgrim and the Void capture so well. A bewildering encounter with something that feels beyond understanding. It reminds me that one of the two endings of Dark Souls, the better ending I would argue, was a rejection of safety and stagnation, an invitation to choose to extinguish the world's feeble flame and bring about a new age of darkness. An invitation that feels ironic given how long From Software have been feeding that flame, fighting that entropy, reanimating the corpse of souls again and again, losing a little more of itself every time, and especially that precious strangeness that was the reason we loved it in the first place. Souls used to be a challenge to convention. Now it is convention. It probably won't surprise you that there's a final parallel with Souls in the ending of these two titles. In the Void, once you've drained this place of all its colour, it dies along with its inhabitants. although you are allowed to choose one to ascend to an unknown fate before the final darkness swallows everything. And that darkness finds you here too, in your luscious garden, your Technicolor refuge, before it starts to spread. Once you've unlocked this final stage of the game, there's no going back. And when you die, the game just stops. Well, not quite. The game continues running, the darkness slowly spreading, but you don't come back. This ending got criticised for being unsatisfying, but what did you expect? You're trying to outrun entropy itself. How long do you think that can continue? One final world I'd like you to consider visiting is Patreon, where you can get all kinds of nice perks and support my channel for as little as $1 a month. A huge, huge thank you to all my wonderful supporters. See you next time.